Chapter 23 Aftermath.
I don't know, Twilight, but I will find out,
Celestia said to the trembling mare. A mix of sorrow and fury coursed within the ancient alicorn. Sorrow for those who fell defending Twilight, and unrivaled fury for those who had attempted to harm her. To harm her daughter, or at least the closest thing to a daughter she had ever had. Celestia fought back all of her emotions and placed her regal mask back on as she approached Captain Cardus, who was already talking with a fuming Longshot. Gone was the usual witty smirk he would wear on his face. Celestia had never seen the sergeant like this. "Cardus, where did they go?" Longshot asked Cardus.
Longshot, I don't know. They blinded us momentarily.
"Captain," Celestia addressed,
"can you explain to me what happened?"
Princess Celestia. Of course. We were on our way to the meeting hall when we came to this corridor. Everything was normal. 5 guards were stationed here, going about their duty, or so it seemed. When we passed, they jumped us, along with 5 more who were hiding in the courtyard. Honestly, if it wasn't for those extra guards you placed with us, and for Princess Twilight ignoring my request for her to stay out of the fight, we wouldn't be talking right now.
I see,
said Princess Celestia.
Now, was there...
"Hey!" Longshot suddenly shouted in alarm as he reached for his weapon. Celestia shot around, horn charged, and then her world shattered. Something whooshed past her, towards a Pegasus fleeing the scene. However, she barely noticed any of this. Time slowed as Twilight swayed on the spot and began to fall. Time sped up again as Celestia leapt forward and grabbed her student before she hit the ground. Celestia examined Twilight, and her eyes were first drawn to the dagger in Twilight's chest. Celestia quickly removed the blade before casting a powerful healing spell on the wound, which caused it to close immediately, albeit with a nasty scar. Celestia looked up into Twilight's eyes hopefully, and yet her condition didn't improve. The blade was poisoned, and Celestia's spell didn't affect it in the least.
Oh no, Twilight, please.
Celestia resorted to begging, unbelieving at what was happening.
Not now. Not like this.
Twilight tried to say something, but nothing came out. The fear in her eyes began to shift into something more peaceful. Her body began to go limp, and then her eyes closed. Celestia's eyes widened, tears threatening to explode from the dam, before a blue hoof brought her head upwards.
You shouldn't have to live this again, sister,
Luna said gently.
Wake.
Celestia awoke with a start, the morning sunshine creeping through the curtains. Celestia didn't remember much from the previous night, aside from locking herself away and crying herself to sleep away from the public eye. She was certain, however, that she didn't raise or even lower the sun.
Luna must have done it for me,
Celestia concluded. Sighing, Celestia made her way out of bed, and with a wave of her horn, the sheets straightened out and set themselves neatly back down onto the mattress. When she did so, however, she noticed a book-shaped lump sticking out in the middle. Carefully, she extracted the object, she could confirm it was a book. A photo album, to be exact. I must have fallen asleep with it. Celestia opened the album to a creased set of pages. There was a single picture on each page. One was when Twilight had just passed her first major exam at Celestia's school, having received top marks, of course. The other was one that Raven had snapped. It was of Celestia, and she was sleeping peacefully in front of a fireplace with a lavender filly tucked up safely beneath one of her giant wings. She had been comforting Twilight after a particularly bad nightmare the filly had endured. Tears stained that page in particular. Recent tears.
Reminiscing, are we?
Another voice asked. Celestia dropped the book onto the bed and swung around, tearing open the curtains as she did so, the sunlight illuminating a previously shadowy corner at the far end of the room.
Tell me, Celestia,
Chrysalis started spitefully.
Why shouldn't I burn this pathetic city to the ground?
Celestia examined Chrysalis and found no malice on her face. Instead, all she could see was the visage of a broken mare. How did you get in here?
Oh, it wasn't hard. Your methods of detecting changelings are child's play for any infiltrator worth their salt. And believe me, my changelings have notable skill. Remember the army surrounding the city, hidden in plain sight? They can attest to that. You know, if diplomatic relations between us had succeeded, we could have shown you far more effective means of detection. But I suppose it's far too late for that, isn't it?
No, Chrysalis, it isn't, Celestia maintained.
My daughter is dead!
Chrysalis exploded.
I felt her mind go silent, and she was killed by a pony, one of your most trusted guards, no less. Your kind took the singular most precious thing I had.
Chrysalis looked away momentarily, trying to compose herself.
So tell me again, Princess Celestia.
She choked.
Why shouldn't I burn this pathetic city to the ground?
Celestia realized that Chrysalis was hysterical. Not thinking with a rational mind, but rather that of a grieving, vengeful mother. Celestia gave Chrysalis a meaningful look, and what she said next shocked Chrysalis into submission and wiped away any hostile plans from her mind.
She's alive.
Vladimir, Longshot, and Cardus sat in a bar not far from the Canterlot Central Hospital from where they had just come. They sat around a small table, pints sitting before them. The two other guards to survive defending Princess Twilight sat at the bar itself, deep in discussion. This wasn't the usual bar where the royal guard would meet, but when they had been attacked by their own, that was the last place they wanted to be. Cardus wasn't at the hospital himself, but he had a large bandage around his torso, with small holes cut into it to make room for his wings. Once he had been discharged by the doctors, he had intended to get some sleep, but the others had convinced him that he needed a drink. Longshot took a swig from his glass before slamming it down onto the table. Should have done something. I knew there was something wrong with the commander, and I did nothing. That fucking traitor. Longshot, Vlad started. You can't blame yourself for this. There's no way you could have truly known this was going to happen. And there's no way you could have incarcerated Broadsword on a hunch.
Was there any sign of him?
Cardus asked. Vladimir sighed. I'm afraid not. According to the two who pursued him, it's like he just vanished. Though they think he may have had something to do with the missing guard and the maid.
They think he killed them.
They likely came across his plans, so he disposed of them.
Sweet Celestia, Longshot muttered.
How about Luna? Did you find any others working with him? Those we know we can trust are doing a full sweep of the guard. So far, we found no others among us working with them. However, several guards apparently have been doing some suspicious activity. But the commander had been using his position to cover for them. Those guards included the ones that attacked you, Cardus. Not only that, but the others included have not been reporting for their shifts as of late. Once again, any incidents were covered by broadswords.
He could do that?
He was Shining second in command. He had access to all the reports, rosters, etc.
Damn,
Cardus said, picking up his own glass and drinking from it. I'm sorry about your friends, by the way, Vladimir said apologetically to Cardus. Soldiers are soldiers, and they gave their lives in the name of duty. I respect that.
Sorry. Yeah, so am I. Served with them all for years. I would have died for any of them. Instead, it's they who perished. And I have to live with that.
It's never easy losing those under your command, let alone friends. I've already made a request to have their names recorded and honored.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Throughout the entire back and forth, Longshot had been thinking to himself, oblivious of the other two, until he was struck by a revelation. Guys, he caught their attention. Did any of you hear what Broadsword whispered into Twy before he...
He whispered something?
Cardus asked in surprise. What, you didn't hear anything over that hive voodoo crap you do?
Hive mind, and no, none of us did. The Queen only found out who did it when I told her after, and in fact, she only knew the attack was going on when it happened. She can't listen in all the time.
What, you didn't think to tell her right away?
Don't you dare criticize me, Sergeant. I was rather busy trying to keep Twilight and the diplomats alive.
Shit, I didn't mean to... I'm sorry, Cardus. All right? After a few moments of silence, Longshot spoke again. I can only imagine how Chrysalis feels. And you all saw Celestia. I never believed I'd see the day our princess broke down. Has any pony told her pony parents yet? Luna did. Vladimir confirmed. Shining Armor has also been informed. He didn't react well. You blame him? What must be going through that stallion's mind? Especially after what happened between them. I can't even imagine, but I can tell you this. If Broadsword believes he and his followers can hide for long, then he's a fool. Nurse Redheart sat behind the reception desk of Canterlot Central, She had been visiting some old friends when news of Twilight Sparkle's horrific injury flooded in, and since she had dealt with Twilight's medical needs back in Ponyville, she had immediately offered her services. Now she sat behind the desk, sorting through some files relating to Twilight's medical history, when shouting reached her ears. "Where is she?" Shining Armor shouted as he burst into the room, bolting straight to the reception desk where a startled Redheart sat. A flustered Princess Miyamori Cadenza followed shortly behind him.
You must be Shining Armor, right?
Redheart asked. "Where is my sister?"
Sir, I'm afraid she's not taking visitors right now, and it's okay. You can tell him,
Princess Cadence assured. With the princess's approval, Redheart told him.
She's in the royal wing, in the room normally reserved for Princess Celestia, should she ever need medical attention.
Shining Armor bolted off immediately, leaving Cadence to be the one to say thank you to the mayor before she quickly followed him. Redheart looked after the two ponies in shock before regaining her faculties and continuing her work.
Not dead? How is that possible? Her mind is silent in the hive. I felt her succumb.
Chrysalis's voice slowly descended into a whisper.
She was left on the precipice of death. Broadsword's blade was coated in a poison engineered specifically to resist any magical means of healing, but I was able to keep her heart beating long enough to get her to the hospital, where the doctors were able to rid Twilight of the foul poison within her. Then why is she still silent?
Celestia looked downcast and continued with a sad sigh.
The poison had already done considerable damage, despite our best efforts. There was only so much we could do. She's been left in a deep coma. One which...
Now it was Celestia's turn to look away.
One which she may never wake from.
Chrysalis slumped to the floor.
But there is a chance, right?
Celestia looked back to Chrysalis's pleading form and slowly nodded in confirmation.
Then it is a chance you gave her. I feel I must apologize. My previous threats were unnecessary and wholly unwelcome. You have nothing to apologize for, Chrysalis. I know what you're going through, more than you realize. No, I think I have a pretty good idea why,
she stated.
I had changelings in place in case hostilities began, and I've now told my forces to stand down. But I would request I keep a smaller force around the hospital in disguise, watching for any more traitors who would wish to do my daughter harm. I agree. Having them there will take a weight off my shoulders, considering how devoted they are to her protection. Indeed. Now, please, can you take me to her? I was planning to visit her myself, and I would be honored to have you accompany me. Thank you, Celestia, but one last thing. Oh? When we find this broadsword, he dies. No arrests, no court cases. Equestria doesn't hold the death penalty, and imprisonment simply won't do. He dies, and you will not stop me.
The first real smile graced Celestia's face that day, but it wasn't a smile any pony would ever want to see.
Oh, Chrysalis, whoever said I was going to allow him to live?
Chrysalis seemed genuinely surprised.
Hold on, just like that? No concern about how ponies would view you because of it?
I will cross that bridge when I come to it. But Broadsword nearly carried someone who I greatly care for and love, not to mention royalty.
Then it would appear he will have the full wrath of the sun to contend with. Thank you, my friend.
The hospital was getting closer, larger, and more oppressive as 5 mares walked towards the looming building.
It's not fair!
Fluttershy squeaked. Of all of them, the timid mare looked the most ragged. None of them had gotten much sleep the previous night.
Why did this have to happen?
Pinky, whose mane was vastly more deflated than usual, spoke next.
He was that meanie. If I ever get my hooves on him, I have a special dungeon with his name on it.
Of course, she didn't really, yet. But her party planning basement had room for expansion.
I would certainly rough him up something fierce, that no good backstabbing.
How do you think he tastes as a cupcake?
Pinkamena asked. Rainbow shouted and frustrated.
Ugh! Does it really matter? Any of us making all these plans? The deed's done. Twilight's hurt, and where are we? Enjoying ourselves out and about. We should have been there. We should have... Ugh.
Rainbow trailed off.
There's nothing we could have done, Sugar Cube. None of y'all could have seen this coming.
She is right. None of us expected the fiend to do what he did. All we can do now is be there for the poor dear. Let the princesses and the guard deal with this.
Rarity added.
Oh, but I really wanted to use the dungeon,
Pinkamena complained.
Can we, please stop talking about it now?
Fluttershy meekly asked.
She's right. Twilight needs us now, so we can't simply stand around thinking about what-ifs. Come on, girls, let's get moving.
Rarity agreed. The 2 guards outside the royal wing in the hospital momentarily reached for their weapons as they saw 2 figures streaming towards them, until they saw who they were. Shining Armor and Princess Cadence, with Shining Armor heading straight into the only occupied room, and with Cadence just stopping short, catching her breath. As Twilight entered the room, he came to a dead stop at the sight that awaited him. Twilight lay in the hospital bed, mask over her muzzle, with various medical machines all connected to her, each one undoubtedly keeping her alive. "Twilight?" Shining called out softly, receiving no answer. Slowly, he approached the bed and pulled up a chair to sit on.
"Hey, LSBFF. I came as soon as I could. Our parents will be visiting shortly, as will the others, I'm sure."
Shining Armor looked down on his sister's peaceful face, his own showing much regret.
"I'm sorry, Twilight. I wasn't there for you. And I don't just mean with what happened yesterday. All those things I said, I was so wrong. And I didn't mean any of it. Foss knows I didn't really mean any of it. I lashed out, and now you're here on this bed, and..."
Shining took a deep breath.
"I love you, Twilight. You'll always be my LSBFF. Whether you're a pony or a changeling, it really doesn't matter to me in the slightest. I'll always be here for you."
Shining gently nuzzled his sister affectionately, before his attention was caught by his fiancée standing by the door, watching the display. 5 mares standing closely behind her. "Come on in," Shining called out. Nodding her head towards the element bearers, Cadence entered the room, with the others following shortly behind, all taking up positions around the bed to keep Twilight company. All of them wishing for one thing. Wishing that Twilight would just wake up. Hello YouTube, Skijaramas here. I'd like to take a moment to let you all know that I am officially starting a Patreon page. And no, I'm not going to be closing it this time, at least not overnight as I did last time. This Patreon page is at present dedicated solely to collecting donations for me to upgrade my equipment. Microphone, laptop, making sure I can keep my voice editing software, the like. There is a link to the Patreon page in the description below. I do hope to see you there. Just so you know, some notable perks of pledging to the Patreon page are getting to see my stuff early and maybe even giving feedback and suggestions on projects that I'm considering but haven't necessarily committed to yet. I always like other opinions. They're nice to have. So, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you next time.